All right. So, one of the biggest topics that have been dominating enterprise AI conversations is the cost of tokens. So, the quick recap here is that we know that the frontier labs have begun to end the era of token subsidization, and they're making it so that your subscriptions don't really apply, and they're moving to usage-based pricing, and that becomes really, really expensive. And so, what today, if you're developing, let's say you're developing in Copilot or whatnot, or you're using Claude CLI or the Grok CLI or an Anthropic CLI, is that while they do a good job of being able to do handoffs to cheaper models within their own product family. So, for example, you can use the superpower skill in the Claude CLI or the OpenAI or the Anthropic CLI or the OpenAI CLI and say, hey, use superhumans to develop with, let's say, Sonnet, but plan in Opus or Fable. Or in OpenAI, you can say something like, hey, I want you to plan with 5.6 Sol, but develop with 5.6 Luna. What happens if you want to share across model families? So you want the plan to be Fable, but you want the development to be Grok. Well, we developed an internal session management tool that basically allows you to give AI coding agents a shared memory across sessions, but across different AIs. So Claude finishes the work at midnight, and then Codex can pick it up in the morning and knows exactly where things stand. So again, the problem that we were trying to solve here is that every AI coding session starts with amnesia. If you're working across different models and across different terminals or across different UXs, so you close the terminal and everything the agent knew, what it shipped, what broke, where it planned to do next is gone outside of that agent's memory. So if, again, you were trying to do something with Anthropic, but then hand it over to Codex, that memory is never shared. So I just want to show you this working in action. And so what we do here is we typically work in multiple CLIs. So here in the bottom is the Claude Code CLI. Up here is the Grok build, where we're using Grok 4.5. And here is the Codex CLI, where we're using GPT 5.6 Sol. And again, this is just more of an example. But what I did was for our Hive and Saya project, we wanted to investigate a bug that we saw. And so what we did was we just came in here and we created a work tree using the superpowers, and it's called entity creation. So we want to understand for the entities in our knowledge graph why certain ones were being created. And it just created the work tree, as you can imagine. That said, what we then did was in Grok, we said move to the entity creation work tree. And you can see here, the first thing it does with our tooling is, even though it's a brand new instance, it first goes and looks at the session state. So no dedicated state entity creation directory exists yet. Why? Because we haven't done anything. So it's like, what would you like me to do? And I said, hey, take a look at a lot of these entities in my entity merge approval queue. The problem is that a lot of these entities shouldn't have been created in the first place, for example. So Grok did its thing. It went through and it evaluated, etc. I told it to sketch out a design. It did. And then at the end of its work, after it's done creating the design, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I trust Grok 4.5 yet, or Grok 4.5 is good at development, but I want to be able to have Codex review it. I don't want Fable to review it because Fable is really expensive. So first, I'm just going to have Codex review it, which is a lot cheaper. So the key is, at the end of every session, I hit wrap up, and I just type wrap up, and it wrote up, and it says session wrap cleanly, and it is now ready for the next agent to take over. Well, that's when I logged into Codex CLI and I said log in, and you can see here the top part got cut off because of the session, but it says the handoff preserves Grok's design summary, and now it starts reading through that state management and it's able to pick right up. What I didn't have to do was give it any kind of context around what was the design, what was it about. It knows everything already, which is the big difference here. Before, you could only do this within the CLIs that you're actually working in. So then it went in and it evaluated it and it said, hey, you know what? There's some changes I want to make. And so it went through and it did a review of the Grok's design, and it came up with some blocking issues. And so after it was done writing up all those issues, I said, update the needed documentation with your findings, and then wrap up. So again, the same key, whether it's in Grok, whether it's in Codex, or whether it's in Claude, all I had to do was say wrap up. And then it went and wrapped up, and then it wrote out the different things. And here you can see at the thing, it says session 2 saved. So Grok was session 1, and now it actually manages and says session 2 saved. So it updated the work tree, it updated the plan. And so now the plan and the design gates, the KG entity design gate's done. And just to show you this in real time, I'll show you then how I can pick it up back in Fable. So I started the work tree in Fable. I had Grok create a design. I had Codex update the design based on issues. And now I'm going to say, take a look at what Codex did on the design, evaluate the design, and start the build with Superhuman. And while I'm not going to record the entire build, I'll just show you how it picks up the session management here in a second. So you can see here, it's picking up the session 2. So session 1, it found was investigated the junk organization. Session 2 was it recorded the gate 3 corrective design. And there it started. And now it's going to go through and evaluate it and build it. So a really cool skill that we built here. It is not a skill in its traditional sense, but a really great way now that we can start optimizing internally here on our development across multiple different types of models. And right now I'm just using Codex, Anthropic, and Grok build. But you can imagine we also use development tools like GLM 5.2, et cetera. We can bring in any open source model as well and start developing against it. A really great way for us to optimize and leverage the agents in terms of what's best for us in token utilization and drastically lowering our costs by an order of magnitude.